curiosity is contagious. Like when you're around people who are curious and they're asking questions and stuff like that, if you spend enough time with that person, you're going to start to adopt some of that yourself. I think about just me and Brock as an example, the time we got to spend out in Salt Lake. We spend a lot of time together anyways, but spending that even more intimate time together, not in a weird way, but he rubbed off on me a little bit, through that process.
And arrival syndrome is the epitome of losing curiosity. But if you think about a kid who's curious, they're into everything. They're turning stuff over, they're climbing stuff, they're testing the limits, they're not scared to fall, they figure it out if they do fall. Why do we lose that as adults? Why? Because the world has convinced us, in my opinion, that that's what we're supposed to do. We're better off acting like we got it all figured out than admitting that, hey, there's always something new to learn.
Right now, you are saving money, and it's being saved within a savings account or a checking account. There's just no contract around that says, hey, you're going to save this amount every year. But the reality is, unless you lose your income somehow, some way for the rest of your life, you should be saving a certain amount of money every year into your savings account. The same is all we're doing is saying, hey, rather than saving the money within your savings account where there's no contract around stating, hey, here's what you're going to get and here's how long you're going to do it and here's the amount that you're going to do it with, we're actually putting it in a zone where those things are listed out. They are articulated about the fact of, here's how much you're going to put in, this is how long you're going to put it in for, and this is what it's going to perform like. And then a prediction of what it could do more of.
Welcome to the Cashflow Legendz podcast with your hosts, Nate, Brandon, and Brock. Remember, our insights are not direct financial advice, so consult with your financial team before making any decisions based on the topics discussed in this show.
Welcome back to Cashflow Legendz. We are all excited to be here today and talk about the things that we would talk about even if we weren't recording it and sharing it across, the world and all the platforms. Before we hit record, we were visiting with Brock because Brock said this past Sunday was the first day he had slept in his bed for 3 weeks. Brock, tell a little bit about where you've been and what you've been doing. And the point I want to make here is that in all things we do, we don't have to go chase rates of return. One of the best investments we can focus on always is our growth and our knowledge and our relationship capital. So talk a little bit about that before we dive into the topic today.
Sure. I went to Belize and just bummed it for 3 weeks and kicked it up.
I'm kidding. No, you didn't. I don't know if you could do that.
I wasn't in Belize for one of those weeks. What happened?
Yeah, I think I would last 2 days, 3 days.
Yep.
I went on I like bundling my trips together, and this one just happened to be the fact that I went to Salt Lake City, Dublin, Georgia, Austin, Texas, Orlando, and then a place called Livingston, Tennessee. Dublin and Livingston, there's absolutely nothing in those towns. I was there for weddings, and those were fun. But the other three were fun because when I went to Salt Lake City, that was to hang out with Garrett Gunderson, and Nate got to join me and a couple others and spoke a lot about, how do you build your brand, your social media, your impact, a lot of those things. And then Austin was a part of the Lifestyle Investor Group that I'm a part of. And we do in-person events 3 times a year. 2 of them, as of right now, are meant for just anybody. And so I took probably 5 people with me, and that was really awesome. I love when friends, colleagues, clients, business partners come with me to these events, and this one was a really special one. So the next one is in September. I think it's September 8th and 9th. They're always in Austin. So if anybody ever does want to come that listens to this show, all you got to do is reach out, and I can give you that invite and a discount code to get in. And then I went to Orlando, Universal with Penn Mutual, just being one of their top producers in the country. And that was fun. that was more relaxing than all three of them. But I got to the point where, maybe I need a vacation from my vacations.
Brock, would you say that it's fair to say that when we are in alignment for what we are created to do, that should all give glory to the Lord, and we all have different skill sets, that we're going to have seasons that we're exhausted, even if it's for good reasons?
Yes, 100%. I'm exhausted right now.
Okay. And the point I'm bringing up there that I want to connect to is that there's always the likelihood of being exhausted because we're busy.
Yeah.
The real question is what's creating the exhaustion, and is it in alignment with what we're called to be doing? And that's an important piece. Nate, I see you want to say something, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Just this thought of I went to the gym yesterday, and then around 2:30, 3 o'clock, I was like, man, I need a nap. And so the often growth will create exhaustion. So it just tied perfectly in what you just said. Like, what is creating the exhaustion?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's totally okay, because my exhaustion has come from the fact that I've just been sprinting nonstop since the start of the year.
Yep.
And I'm not done sprinting, but that last week in Orlando was a lot less of a sprint, to say the least.
Good. So have either one of you guys seen the movie Miracle, about the USA hockey team?
It's been a while, but yes.
College kids. So
Yep.
we just watched that at my house again. And there's so many good things that come from that movie that I think will tie into our thoughts today. So a lot of times when we're interacting with anybody that has no context or very little context of what a dividend paying whole life insurance policy is and what that really means, the first thing that comes to their mind is what they think they know about this product. And I would say pretty confidently that if we're genuine in how we ask the questions, Nate, almost always what Nelson Nash said in Becoming Your Own Banker is most people's understanding of dividend paying whole life insurance is based off of someone else's misunderstanding. Hardly ever do we ever get on a call or on a Google Meet and somebody just understands fully what this type of product does and contract does with the mutual company. Would you agree with that, Nate?
Absolutely. One of the hangups that we hear sometimes, and the people that we connect with, is once we share with them all the things that come with whole life insurance and share with them what's possible, they'll say, this sounds too good to be true. So you have one camp that says whole life insurance, get away from me. And then you have this other camp that leans into it, learns a little bit, and says, this sounds too good to be true. And, we learned this from Brock's dad, Trent. When someone feels like something is too good to be true, you just have to ask them, well, how bad does it need to be for it to be believable? Where do I need to add some negative things in here for this to start to make sense or whatever? But the too good to be true crowd is really just in a place where there's still skepticism there, and they haven't leaned in enough to learn what's actually going on. But there's another aspect of that, because Nelson makes the point in the book that even the home office people at the life insurance company don't fully understand what's possible with whole life insurance.
That is, Nate, that's such a great point. So we're on pages 21 through 25. Oh, good.
Two things. So number one is there's this guy, his name's Bobby Samuelson. He's kind of a big deal. He knows a lot within the life insurance space. And he has this talk about the fact of, like, the more you understand about permanent life insurance, the more you want to buy it. And the more you realize, I want to buy this. So that's number one. Number two, to back up your statement, Nate, a lot of people might not believe you on that, but so my father's mentioned a lot, and he went to do a meeting a long time ago. I think I was born, but it was a long time ago, to a really, really large, one of the largest mutual life insurance companies in the country. And it happens to be in Manhattan or New York. I'm not going to say which one, but It's in New York.
You can
And
connect the dots.
and it's true. And he was walking through something, and within this meeting, he thought it was just going to be him and the CEO of the company. Well, it turned out to be him, the CEO, like 13 lawyers that were on staff, their underwriting department, some actuary. Like, it was a whole entire boardroom of people. And after he got done talking, the CEO said, "We're going to work with Trent because I know how much life insurance each one of you has in this room and who owns permanent life insurance and who doesn't." And uh, that just goes to show what's happening here. And it's not like that wasn't a one-time thing. Like, there's a green company that I know of that purchased a software that's also green that I really like. And the same was true for their executives. And then they were converted and understood after realizing the tool that they had in their pocket.
And Brock,
Ooh.
if I remember correctly, part of that story of him being in that boardroom was some of the lawyers were trying to argue with him about the points he was making about whole life insurance.
It wasn't specifically about whole life insurance, but it was about Leap.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
And it maybe
Yeah.
I was probably two. So I don't know.
You two guys are bringing up some great points that I'm reminded of something that I heard Myron Golden say. He said, the more educated we are on a topic connected to the action we've taken to be able to compare it to something we used to do, the less we have to argue and the more we can educate if you want to be educated or learn. And so basically the point is if I ever am in a conversation about whole life and I feel emotionally charged, then there's something I need to reflect on because I don't fully understand it because I'm trying to convince you with emotion. When you can calmly say, these are the facts about this product, then you can leave it in that person's court to decide what they want to do with it. Yep. And that's really our goal for when we hit record here. We're not ever going to say you should get as much dividend paying whole life insurance as you possibly could.
I would say
well, I agree, Nate Brockwood. I would say, do you understand why you should? And if you do, then I'm not going to have to convince you because all three of us want as much as we can possibly get. And we know why. So a big piece of that y'all are talking about, let's talk about why this is so foundationally important and why your dad was in that boardroom with that company not to be named that's in Manhattan. About why it was so important to bring up those points is a dividend paying whole life contract with a mutual company is unlike any other contract in America. Let's just start there. Because a lot of times I've noticed when we say the word contract, that freaks people out who've been doing the same thing daily with their money. They don't even think about money and contracts being in the same realm or the same conversation. So what do you want to tackle at kindergarten, making a kindergarten explanation of contracts in the world today and why, and then we'll dive into why a whole life policy is so much different than almost any other contract.
Yeah. It's a written promise between two parties with a start date and an end date. And you sign, I sign, and we're good to roll.
Okay. All right. So let's play a little Q&A. Nate, inside that written contract, we will sometimes say unilateral. Are there guarantees and what are they at a very high level with the start and the end date?
Inside of a whole life contract, the guarantees are we do promise to pay you an interest rate on the growth of the policy. And we do promise to pay a death benefit claim one day. We do also promise to allow you to access your equity or your cash value inside of the policy. And part of that contract is we're not even going to ask you what you want the money for because legally you have first rights to it.
Let me see if I can summarize that. Okay. There's 4 parts to the contract in the guarantees. Number 1, you have a premium, and that premium will not go up or down unless you, the insured, does something to change it. You have a guaranteed death benefit that will not go up or down unless you, the insured, does something, or the owner does something to change it. Then you have an end date to the contract, which in the United States of America is age 121 years old. When a contract is over, that means it endows. At this point in time, your contract endows, meaning your cash value equals your death benefit. And if you are still alive, you'll get a written check for that because the contract is over. So because you have a premium that will never go up or down unless you, the owner, does something to change it. You have a death benefit that will never go up or down unless you, the owner, does something to change it. And the contract has an end date where it endows. That means there is a guaranteed interest rate within that contract where the cash value will grow to meet that death benefit at some future date.
What I love about what you both just said is this proves that there's no magic in this. This is math. It's just good old math based off of hundreds of years of data. And what these companies have is, I think of them as number nerds, but I've met a few of them. They're really, really, really sharp. And I've been impressed by the ones that they allow out in public to speak. So there's different categories of, who's behind the scenes you never see and who you get to talk to. And what they understand is like you just said, Brock, and Nate, this unilateral private contract has guarantees in it that's directly related to our behavior and how we pay the premiums we've been approved to pay. But we are fully in control of that. So when we have that full control, we need to understand the value of this place we're putting our dollars and what it creates, which Brock just did a great job of going through on those 4 things. This is the piece that I think is so hard to wrap our mind around. Early, I had this conversation twice with 2 members who pay a good amount of premium in their world based off of their income. And they both realized, they kind of had an aha moment after a year plus or 2 of paying premiums, that taking over the banking function in their life is directly correlated with how many premiums they pay and how much capital they control inside their cash value. So one of them said to me yesterday, so if I just look to control the things of life that I was sending other people interest to, I could create a greater rate of return, traditionally speaking, just by taking over the banking function. And so the piece that we're talking about here is there's 2 things going on. There's the internal guarantees and rates of return and benefits based off of how we pay premium. The external is how we use it. And that's different for everybody. And that's a hard piece to wrap our mind around early on. So let's touch on this. Brock or Nate, who wants to take it? Are you second, third, fourth, fifth in line to be able to access borrowing against the cash value? Or are you numero uno, and why?
Numero uno. Contract guarantees that we are number 1 in line.
So, Brock, if you need to purchase something for 50 grand, and let's say you don't know anything about IBC, what are the 2 ways you're going to consider purchasing that?
Pay cash for it or finance it.
Yep. And will you be making payments either way?
Yes, you will.
Okay. Why? Simply put,
So
what is the holdup when cash happens? What do most people think?
I think what most people think is, taking a step back. When you think about this contract or this scenario, not contract, this scenario, and you're looking to purchase something, what did you say we were looking to purchase?
Let's just say a car for 50 grand.
A car for 50 grand. So there's really 2 main ways that most people see it. You either pay the cash today because you have the cash on hand, or you finance it because you believe that you could do something better with that cash on hand if you have it. If you don't have it, then you'll purchase it today, and then over time, you will pay for that thing. So you already know that here's this thing that I have. I'm going to purchase it. I'm going to pay for it in some way, shape, or form over time, whether it's today or over a longer period of time. When we do that, in that scenario, there is the one scenario of taking the cash and buying the vehicle, where we remove the capital from the bank's balance sheet to where we give up interest that we could have earned if it would have been able to just sit there. On the other side, if we finance that car purchase, we are now paying the bank that money. And so, you know, and in both scenarios, some way, shape, or form, you're either earning or you're paying for interest. And if we know that we are going to use this capital anyways, that we are going to purchase this, what if we already had the capital set aside in some account and we were able to utilize it in a way that it continued to earn the interest, but we also were the ones who financed it? And maybe
Yep.
I'm jumping ahead. Sorry, Brandon.
No, you're good. That's perfect.
But very clearly, we're not paying ourselves the interest. We're paying the life insurance company the interest. And we may get the spread, which maybe we'll go into here in a bit.
Yep. And what you're proving right here, and I don't know about you guys, Nelson said, once we know what the problem is, we'll know what to do. And the longer I'm around this world and this conversation, the more clear it becomes that what Brock just described is really the only couple of ways you can do anything with money. The only couple of ways you can think about money. We've been convinced to believe there's all these products that do these things, but there's always trade-offs and there's always contracts, but most of those are legal. What does that mean? That means they occurred after 1913, Nate, which is the only world that we understand, because none of us were living before 1913.
When I heard Robert Kiyosaki say this one time on his radio show, that there's three sides of every coin. There's heads and tails, which is what everybody thinks about, but then there's also the edge. And so whenever I kind of sort of equate it back to this, paying cash or financing, that's sort of heads or tails. The edge of the coin is the ability to leverage capital in an environment that you control. That's the part that either people don't think about or don't even know about yet.
Well, and Nate, how could you ever think about something, or how could we ever think about something if we didn't even know it was really possible? We first have to become aware that it's possible and be willing to lean into that. So some of our greatest mentors have convicted me through the questions they asked me for accountability. Are you meeting them where they're at? Because as Brock's dad taught us so well, we are all doing the best we can with the present day knowledge that we have. Nobody walks around going, hey, I sure hope to be average or below average today. Nobody goes, hey, I sure hope that 50 grand leaks out of my life unbeknownst to me. Nobody walks around doing that, that I know. And if they do, that's not somebody I want to hang out with. I mean, if I'm being very genuine here, okay? So we have to understand that this is about where we put our money first. This is not a investment. So one of the ways I know if somebody understands whole life insurance or not is the minute they start comparing it as an investment to something else, I immediately know that anything else they say after that, they don't fully understand. Period. And it saves me so much bandwidth of frustration because I know they don't understand it and they are just going off of someone else's misunderstanding. Nate and Brock, we get asked this question all the time. Why do so many people think what we're teaching is wrong? And I always challenge them, let's lean into that. Let's really lean into why you think the world believes that whole life insurance is bad. Because if you're willing to go through those levels of questions, you'll get all the clarity you need on what you want to do next. It is really that simple. You know, I have I have an 8, a 10, a almost 13, and a 15-year-old. What I'm finding with them is every time I ask better questions, they get clarity on their own because they're pretty dang smart. And that's relevant for anybody at any age. When we ask the right questions. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to say, you know, what's really interesting is like curiosity is contagious. Like when you're around people who are curious and they're asking questions and stuff like that, if you spend enough time with that person, you're going to start to adopt some of that yourself. I think about just me and Brock as an example, the time we got to spend out in Salt Lake. Like, I mean, we spend a lot of time together anyways, but spending that even more intimate time together, not in a weird way, but anyways, like he rubbed off on me a little bit, you know,
Yep.
through that process.
Yep.
And when we get around people who are leaning in, like they're not letting their curiosity get the best of them, but they're just leaning into learning and everything like that. Those are the kind of people that we like hanging out with. Those are the people, like I think about a financial advisor I met last week, and went up, introduced myself, and he said, "Oh, I know who you are." He's like, I've been diving into your stuff." He's like, I want to learn more. Well, I'm like, well, let's hang out. Let's get to, you know, I'll teach you as much as you want to learn, because those are the people I like hanging out with. And the thing that we love so much about what we get to do is the people who show up in these conversations, the people that we get to work with. One of the characteristics that we see in them is leaning into learning, or being willing to unlearn.
Mm-hmm. You know, Brock, this is a great reminder of the beauty of kids and adults, but the difference between the two is most of the time when I'm interacting with somebody that's not in our world, that doesn't get to be in the rooms that we're in, they've lost their curiosity. I see that all the time. Like for the age of men that I visit with most, 35 to 65 typically, they've lost their curiosity. And I can't help but think about what we'll touch on later in Becoming Your Own Banker about arrival syndrome. This is what Nelson was talking about. And arrival syndrome is the epitome of losing curiosity. But if you think about a kid who's curious, they're into everything. They're turning stuff over, they're climbing stuff, they're testing the limits, they're not scared to fall, they figure it out if they do fall. Why do we lose that as adults? Why? Because the world has convinced us, in my opinion, that that's what we're supposed to do. We're better off acting like we got it all figured out than admitting that, hey, there's always something new to learn.
That reminds me of Earl Nightingale, where he said the opposite of courage is conformity. And a lot of it, I think, is just conformity. As we sort of become indoctrinated to certain ways of thinking, or we just fall in line with what everybody else is doing, somewhere along the lines, somebody started looking at someone else's behavior and, you know, losing that wonder, losing that curiosity. And from a biblical perspective, Paul talks about this, the value of having childlike, Jesus talks about this, the value of having childlike faith. I think some element of that is the element of curiosity as a child.
That's good. So let's tie it up on this page, just thinking through this. Nelson says something that, Brock, I want you to touch on. So the policy at a mutual company that's a dividend paying whole life product gets more efficient with time. Is there anywhere else we put our money where efficiency occurs guaranteed based off of our behavior?
Don't think that there is.
So what Nelson's trying to get us to realize is that no matter what, we have to put our money somewhere. And if we really simplify it, there's not that many places that we can put it. And wherever we put it, there are trade-offs, right? Always. So if we lean into do simple better, all we're really changing is one thing in our thinking. But that one thing we're changing creates multiple things that could be a blessing and a benefit to how we create value in this world and where that value goes, which is money follows value, as we know. Brock, I'll never forget, and you probably got this from somebody else, but I use it all the time. People think you have to have money to make money. The truth is that if you have no money and you win a lot of money, you're going to lose all that money most likely if you never had it to begin with because of your mindset. The truth is that if you win a lot of money, but you've already created value in this world and you know the value of that tool of money, you're going to put it to work to do something else. And you're going to keep doing what you were doing. And man, I don't even like saying that out loud because it really puts a mirror in front of me of where I've struggled mentally with how I think about money. But it is, I can see it a little bit now. It's glimmers. I have to fight my old way of thinking. It does not take money to make money. What it takes is us investing in ourselves and looking for ways to bring value in this world in a way that it's in alignment with what we've been created to do through curiosity that will allow us, because of the Lord, to get into rooms and be around people that make us uncomfortable in our thinking to help us grow. And that is really, Brock, you alluded to it being gone for 3 weeks. Many of those weeks you were gone, you and Nate were in rooms with other, I always hesitate to use this word, other successful entrepreneurs. But what y'all are pulling off of them is how are they successful, and do you want to be successful in those ways? Because not all worldly success is success I want to chase now. I'm clear on that. Nate and I have gotten real clear that worldly success is not hardly ever pleasing to the Lord. I want to chase success that my wife says I was the best husband that I could have ever have been, that I sought the Lord, that I failed all the time, but I kept leaning into Him. And then my children saw that. And then generationally, we saw that. And that's what wealth and success means us. So Nelson did a great point of helping us understand that we got to capitalize and put money somewhere. And I wrote a note in here years ago, and we'll finish on this. Premiums are fuel for efficiency. Premiums are fuel for efficiency. Now, we have to make a switch in our head, Nate, because how do most people associate the word premiums? Cost. How do most people associate, us included, the word loan and paying back a loan?
Same way. Cost.
It's a cost.
It's a drag.
It's a drag. Something I got to do. Brock, how would you summarize that when you really understand this fantastic private unilateral contract?
Whenever I think about the fact of utilizing whole life insurance as a place to store your capital and grow your capital, completely forgetting about the fact of like how banks actually work and the horrible statistics that they actually have, and they're not safe at all. Forgetting about that. But talking about like the actual process of saving money through your premiums payments. Right now, you are saving money and it's being saved within a savings account or a checking account. There's just no contract around that says, hey, you're going to save this amount every year. But the reality is, like, unless you lose your income somehow, some way for the rest of your life, or if you don't structure your cash flow correctly, go to livecurrents.com/Brock Fortner to find out more. But if you like, you should be saving a certain amount of money every year into your savings account. The same is true. Like, all we're doing is saying, hey, rather than saving the money within your savings account where there's no contract around stating, hey, here's what you're going to get and here's how long you're going to do it and here's the amount that you're going to do it with, we're actually putting it in a zone where those things are listed out. They are articulated about the fact of here's how much you're going to put in, this is how long you're going to put it in for, and this is what it's going to perform like, and then a prediction of what it could do more of.
That's good. I think about the kindergarten T-chart always. If we covered up whole life insurance at the top left of a T-chart, and we covered up savings or checking account at the top right, and we listed the benefits of saving our money at either one of those places, and we gave that to anybody, we go, hey, where would you like to save your money? It would be unequivocally a no-brainer. They would pick the whole life every time. So if we move the cover off of those and they still convince themselves that they don't need to do that, it's because of some kind of thinking that needs to be reframed or restructured, which is why Nelson spent the first half of the 92 pages of Becoming Your Own Banker talking about behavior and mindset. And this is really a process in rethinking our thinking.
Yep.
It's how one thinks. So We
Brandon,
hope we challenge. Go ahead, Nick.
well, that reminds me of Carlos Lara and his exercise that he takes people through on the perfect investment.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say, hey, if you could build the perfect investment, what are some things that you would want? And so he just starts listing all the things that they're wanting in this perfect investment. And then he shows it to him and he's like, dude, like, how do you get this? And we're like, well, it doesn't exist. And then he starts explaining how each one of these characteristics of the things they listed out can be satisfied or accomplished. And he says most of the time they go, well, it must be illegal then, once he tells them that. And we use investment loosely in that context because whole life insurance is not an investment. And this is not a financial advice, all those things. But it's an exercise to get people to start to understand that they have a misunderstanding of what whole life insurance is. So anyways, it just reminded me of that as you were speaking.
So we really touched on what's going on with the private contract, the unilateral first strike guarantee. We're going to lean into next week, diving into what else do you get as a benefit when you save money via premiums through the contract with the mutual company through a dividend paying whole life insurance policy. Because there are more things that you can get that are a part of the contract. Some of them are really hard to wrap your mind around when you really realize it. And so we want to lean into, if you are uncomfortable about the word whole life insurance or the words whole life insurance put together, then what will it take for you to become comfortable? What will it take for you to no longer be skeptical? Skepticism, as Brock's dad taught us so well, is not bad. Remaining there is bad. That creates scarcity, fear, and it's also the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over, hoping to get a different result. Let's not be insane. Let's be concrete on why we do what we do. Even if it's, hey, these guys at Cashflow Legendz are idiots and I don't believe them and I don't want to listen to them anymore and we don't want to listen to the podcast. Great. Even if that's the concrete answer you got, you will live a happier life than being stuck in the middle of the unknown. I can tell you that for sure. So until next time, we hope this was a blessing to you. We're so grateful the Lord allows us to record something and talk about something that we would be talking about anyway, that we would do anyway, no matter what. Remember to hit those like and subscribes if it brought any value to you. You can catch us at Cashflow Legendz with a Z.com for any details or connecting with us. And if you heard Brock earlier about currents and efficiency of cash flow, that's also a great place to go. Is Brock, give me that website one more time and put it in the show notes.
There's two websites you ought to visit. Live Currents, LIVE, currents.com/Brock Fortner, or book.stonecenturyfinancial.com, where you can get a free copy of What Would the Rockefellers Do?
Fantastic. Sweet. We hope you all have a blessed day, and we can't wait to catch you on the next one.